Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is the Cryptolorian from the Well community, and this is another Art X Well interview. Today, we are very excited to welcome Austrian digitalist, 3D artist, and photographer Legendary. His artworks express ambiguous relationship between anonyms, light and dark, life and death, awareness and unconsciousness, zero and one, and he experiments with technologies including both augmented and virtual reality to bridge the analog and digital art media. I am so happy I got through all that because I thought I was going to have a hard time. Welcome, Legendary. I'm really excited to have you back on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been quite some time since the last time I was on stage with you.
Yeah. How long has it been? It feels like forever, but it probably
Well,
was
in,
last
in
year.
NFTs, it feels like, I don't know, 30 years or something.
It does. There's been
Probably a couple of months, I'd say.
yeah, probably a few months. But yeah, in NFT land, time passes quite fast here. So it feels like probably like it's like being like a dog or a cat, right? Uh,
Yeah, yeah, for real.
well, it's for starters, let's just get over with the introduction stuff. Before we begin, for those who don't know who you are, please tell us about yourself and what you've been up to the last few years.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as you said, Austrian artist, originally a photographer, way before NFTs and the blockchain even were a thing. Got into this space like I'd say 4 years ago. Was really thinking how I can bring my creative energy to this space, and I thought it was a perfect moment to start with something new, a new skill set. Taught myself 3D art, rendering, animating, and didn't start out with photography in this space. So, but I did take concepts, from framing, positioning, lighting, etc., telling story and context via photography to 3D art. And yeah, this is what I have been doing over the last couple of years in this space.
Man, and I got to say, it's been really exciting to see your journey so far. I think watching you grow and do a bunch of stuff and jump into different platforms has been quite inspiring for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, like seeing the video in the beginning was like a journey through the last 1.5 years, and was quite emotional to see that, and to be reminded of all those moments and well milestones that I've been through, and all the things I learned, people I met, platforms I've been on, and really trying to find a place for myself in this beautiful space we're all in.
Well, I'm glad that you decided to do that because yeah, your stuff and your art and pretty much everything you do is you're just it's really good to have you here because you contribute a lot, and a lot of folks don't know about everything that you do, which I want to get into a little bit later. But some reflective questions. What made you start creating NFT art?
Well, actually started as a collector first. Like I think it was Gods Unchained that was the first major thing that really got my attention in this space. Like I don't know, it was 2 years ago or something, right? And I felt like being a photographer, I never had the opportunity to create something that's both unique and digital. Like there wasn't a possibility to do so. So I was really quite intrigued to the concept of NFTs per se. But on the other hand, I just didn't want to, as I said, continue doing what I did before, just bring my photography and my existing body of work through to a new space. And I was like, I want to experiment like with this kind of digital canvas and see what else I could do. And yeah, this really was the inspiration and motivation to get started, and to get started with 3D art as well.
Yeah, and how was that transition? Because I mean, to me, when people ask questions, actually, there was a question in the whale community earlier, maybe last week or before, asking about some processes and how to make digital art and MP4s. And man, the first person I thought was you to to answer that question. To be honest, so to
Yeah,
me, you seem like a master at this stuff.
Well, thank you. It's there's like so many things to learn, and it's a pleasure to do that, right? But it was a very, it for me personally, it had a very steep learning curve, um, because with photography, you see something, right? You see a scene and you try to frame it. But if you start with, Cinema 4D or Blender or whatever the tool is that you're using, you're starting with a completely blank canvas. You start at nothing, and this was like a new process for me, right? So that was quite interesting to basically be able to build a scene like I would imagine it to look perfectly for me. But I couldn't do that in photography because I had to work with what's there. And here I could start at zero. And before I stepped into 3D, I did some kind of illustration work, as you can see with the three pieces here with turtles. And then I really moved on to, learn more about creating 3D art. And I did find it quite helpful, like, because you asked me about processes, to have a couple of tools, especially in Blender or add-ins, that basically added a DSLR to the scene, and I could use the settings like aperture, etc., that I was used to from my camera, could translate them into the digital world and play around with that. And this was like such a massive help to start to learn. And obviously there's like so many great artists in this space, and just by looking at the work and trying to find out and figure out how they do things and how they create their work, you really get inspired. And this also helped me to ease into that process of creating.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're taking me back here geez, it's almost been 2 years now when because you get that excitement when you first come here and you first see what's happening, and
Yeah,
like I love it that you're I want to see like photography has come out, and it's getting to be a big deal now, right? And
absolutely. It absolutely is. It's such a massive trend right now.
I'd love to see your photography too. But going along what you said, it basically, a few years ago when you first get into the NFT space, and the excitement's there, right? And
Mhm.
wanting to learn something new, wanting to branch out and what you've already done, and if you look at your body of work on Maker's Place, uh, and you see where you started and where you've ended up so far, uh, yeah, I mean you're nailing it, and you're using a lot of technologies that you weren't using before, and that's the fun of it, though, right? It's like this excitement. You take that and you push it into your process artistically, and then you want to keep learning and you want to keep doing cooler things, and then you end up where you are, which I think you're doing pretty good.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. Like things get more and more complex over time, and I know, like in the beginning, also if I look back to my own work, like it feels like I was really trying to find my place, and some maybe would say it was all over the place. But as time passes, you find your own way to express yourself in this type of art. And I was thinking, because you mentioned photography, I was thinking to somehow find a way to, bring my photography to the NFT space. But I was like, I just don't want to tokenize my photography, being it like new work or an existing body of work. I want to do something new and maybe like bring together both photography and 3D art, and blend those two together. I've seen a couple of artists trying that and achieving like really interesting things. And I think this would be, I'm actually working on something, been working on that for a couple of months, to be honest, but I'm not happy yet with the result. But I want to, bring my photographies to life in a pretty cool way, I think, at least.
Man, that would be so awesome. And thinking about all the different things that you've done, mostly, you're focused on, and I just want to kind of explore this for a second, but you're focused on like mythology, right? uh, tell me a bit about your passion for that, because it kind of comes out in your work, honestly, and some of your titles. So I was just
Hmm.
wondering if you could talk about that for a few seconds.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Well, I've always been fascinated with mythology, and loved to read all different kinds of myths from all over the world and different cultures. And growing, yeah, this one for example, growing up, I started to think about more about mythology and where it actually came from and what it meant, like in the human history. And basically it was like such an important part in the human process of sense making and making sense of the world around us that we um, didn't understand fully back then. I mean, we don't understand it fully right now, but we had less of an understanding, centuries or millennia ago. And we tried to make a sense of the things we saw and we didn't understand, and came up with mythology to explain the world that surrounds us. And I find that fascinating. And to look across different cultures and see how well certain themes and stories are present in various cultures, with obviously slight differences, but basically at heart telling the same story, like the creation or the end of the world, is, I don't know, it's magic to me. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and that was kind of like drew me to your art and your style, is that fascination that you've had, and that's why I kind of wanted to say it. And then I wonder, so I haven't seen a lot of your photography, and then you talk about this merge of photography and the 3D. Are you going to bring that passion in, like when you take a photo? Are you thinking about this stuff, or are you just trying to capture a specific moment? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I am thinking about this stuff. Like my photography is mostly landscape photography, but also like with a twist. So what I really like doing in photography is to take different moments in time and blend them together. So basically have a scene and have shots across 24 hours, and blend that together in a moment that doesn't exist. You can just perceive a certain scenery one moment at a time, and I'm trying to blend a complete day into one picture and create a magic, and create a look that's not real, that's surreal to a certain extent. So yeah, I would say this fascination with sense making, and um, yeah, with sense making is also there in my photography, and with looking at things differently and trying to see more than there is at first gaze.
I love it. I'm pretty excited to see. Well, hopefully you can send me some stuff, because I'd love to see your landscape photography. But I am really really excited about this blend you're talking about, and to see what you come up with, because honestly, as far as success stories go, I think yours is definitely one of the cooler ones that I've heard in the crypto space. And
Thank you.
going along those lines, you told me before we started the show that you've actually transitioned into more of a full time crypto artist.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So last year was super intense for me. Like I was working on my full-time job, was creating art, was working on a couple of other projects in the space, tried to keep up with all the craziness that happened last year, and all the growth that we see, and all the people that came and joined the crypto and NFT space. And I really tried to get myself in a position where I was able, to transition into doing this full time and being like full time in crypto. And this has been like very very intense on the one hand, but like so fulfilling, and I'm so thankful that I managed to be in that position and to do that. And it also really allows me, to basically take more time with my work, because I feel like everything's moving so fast in crypto and the NFT space. And I was part of that race last year. Like I was trying to put out so much work, and this year is really feels different for me. It feels like for the first time I can really breathe and take more time to work on my creations and really, go down that rabbit hole of, as I said before, bringing photography and 3D art together and really go deep and explore that. And yeah, by doing this full time, being full time in crypto is certainly helpful to be able to do that.
Man, I'm so excited for you. It's yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. As an artist, it's hard to keep up with everything um, in this space because as we talk about quite often, is that everything's going so fast and moving so fast, and you kind of feel like you have to move as fast as the industry is, to keep up. And that kind of, it rushes you in your artistic process and doesn't give you enough time to quite to just kind of flush some ideas out. So I'm glad that your outlook is changing a bit, and you're able to sit back and kind of concentrate a little
Mm-hmm.
more, and I think in the long term, I mean, that just makes, as an artist, makes you be able to produce some better stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That sums it up perfectly.
which is so for me, it's going to be hard to think that I'm at the point where I look at your work, especially. So I'm going to switch the screen here to something that you had put out before later in the year. If I click the right button, that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get there. But this piece here, I absolutely loved. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing, right? Uh, I mean, it's like you could just sit and stare at this, and this is why it's so hard to do an interview with you sometimes, because I have my screen here and I'm looking at this stuff and I start to get a little bit mesmerized by it, because your loops are just so perfect. And I don't have the sound on for folks, but honestly, the sound is just absolutely fantastic. And when you're putting these pieces together, I mean, to be honest, you said you learned this from kind of a scratch point, doing photography, transitioning into this 3D building state. Man, you look like you've been doing this for like 20-30 years.
Well, thank you, I don't know, like, I personally loved watching loops myself, so I knew that I want to have loops for my own work as well, and I think this was actually one of the trickiest parts for me to get there and still improve, right? To still improve on the way my loops look like and how complex they are, because of course I started with very simple loops and tried to get them more and more complex. And I know that there's like a couple of masters in this space who have such a creative approach to loops, and it's fascinating to just get inspired by that.
Yeah, and I mean, you could just sit and watch this for hours, right? uh, and I could totally tell that you're inspired, and you're really trying to hit it perfectly. I mean, this is just, when I look back at the things that you're creating, you're definitely, your attention to detail is just masterclass. So I got to say, I'm, like I said, I'm really excited to see what you come up with in the future, and
Mhm.
I'm glad that you transitioned over to crypto full time, because that just it just makes our NFTs a lot better. And but just kind of transition a little bit. But you're not just doing art, you're actually engaging with the space a lot more than most people. So, we talked a little bit about it before, but tell us some of the other stuff that you're kind of into, because we kind of our paths cross a lot with the.
You mean other than being a degen, collecting NFTs in the thousands and PFPs and blue chip art, and funny collectibles and peppers.
Yeah, I mean, tell us all about this stuff because a lot of people love. I mean, you're not one of those artists who just come in, do art, and then take off, and you're actually participating, which I find to be really, really refreshing. When I see you in a server and you're saying, "Hey, I'm going to get this," I'm saying, "Oh, this is great."
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely love like the things you can do with NFTs. Looking at or with smart contracts to be precise. Looking at Park exploring smart contract art. Looking at games at NFTs taking for some kind of games that are out there, and I think it's just so much fun to interact with it all and to explore. And this really got me to be a huge degen, and also to get into the gaming part of it. I did tell you I have my own guild, the legendary Lunatians, in Axie Infinity, and trying to expand across multiple games because there's like so much fun stuff out there, and it's just so worthwhile to engage with it all.
Yeah, I love how so you told me the number before and I was pretty shocked, but how many scholars do you have now on Axes?
Currently about 40 scholars, and we're
Wow.
we're, we're still growing.
That's amazing. And for those of you who don't know, having scholarships and the management of that is pretty crazy, and especially keeping up with all of the changes in the program, the game, and you got to keep the scholars happy, and you got to make sure that they're hitting a certain threshold so they're able to earn and make a living on this stuff. And it is quite challenging. So having 40, that's fantastic. It sounds like your guild is thriving.
Yeah, it is, and it really feels like it feels like a second family to interact and play together with all those incredible people all over the world. It's I don't know, it's a marvelous experience.
Yeah, and I love these little pocket communities that are coming up, and they're popping up everywhere, and it's just so amazing when they post screenshots of because of this, because I was able to play Axes,
Yeah.
and make some money. I'm able to feed my entire village and then give back to everybody and have a birthday party for somebody and
Or go to university, or
yeah.
help my family, or I don't know. It's just beautiful to see these stories, right? And it's
Oh,
also like, and my scholars are like so engaging, and they are so hyped, and they're like all the time, hey, here's a new game, have you seen this, have you seen that, should we try to be in there and play that and explore that? And it's getting more and more and more. So yeah.
I love it, and I'm of the same. I'm on the same branch as you. I don't have as many scholars. I've been kind of, I just don't have the time really at this point. But I do. I am ready to get some more. But yeah, I'm definitely looking for those game situations where you're able to help people and they're able to borrow the assets, and you're kind of building these relationships with folks in a different way. It's life changing. It's really cool.
Yeah, it really is, and it also like helps bringing new people to the space, and this is something I always love doing, like bringing new artists to the space and working with traditional artists and showing them this digital space of ours and how they can set foot on this new land and thrive here.
Yeah, and that's why I really like your approach because you're not, like I said, you're participating, which is it's so much cooler to have someone participate and want to be a part of the space than just someone coming in, doing a drop, taking off, and that
Yeah,
makes a
absolutely.
huge difference. So what other projects are you looking into now?
Well, talking about onboarding people to the space, I've been working with a European NFT marketplace that's both custodial and fully regulated, so that's really compliant with all the laws and regulations in the European Union. And there are quite a lot of them. The marketplace is called Tokapi. It's about to launch in March, and I think it's really cool thing to have a Europe focused marketplace that helps also to onboard the many creators and artists that we have over here, and also bring a new wave of collectors to the space.
Yeah, that sounds fascinating, and it's fully regulated. I love that you said that, and that's man, it's there's so much going on in the space, and it's hard not to be excited. Even when we see some market downturns, and I mean, it's like who cares? Because everything is being built and everything is being prepped for the next phase of this. And I love that you're working with this new marketplace. So, any idea when we're going to see it live?
We are heading for a launch in March.
Oh, that's fantastic! And are you going to have some pieces on there?
I absolutely will. Yeah.
Oh man, that's great. And I know that this isn't your first time working with new marketplaces because you were on and I'm gonna butcher this name. Is it Vive or is it Vivi?
Um, you're the native speaker. I don't know. I don't know how to say it. To be honest, I don't know.
I
I'm gonna go with Vive.
Vive sounds better, right? I think
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the way it's meant to be pronounced, but I could be totally wrong. So if I'm wrong, I do apologize.
maybe someone in the chat can correct us if we're saying it wrong. But yeah, it's man, it's you made some amazing drops on Vive, and you were actually one of the first, I think, on there back a while back, right?
Yeah, I was one of the first artists who had the pleasure to start the Future Gods of the Past series on that very platform.
Oh man, and that and it's kind of a spoiler because the piece we have for Sell for Well is kind of that theme, right?
Yes, exactly. It is continuing this Future Gods in the Past series, and really being my first bigger series on the one hand, because it explores all the gods of the Olymp, and it asks the question, okay, we're living in a futuristic world, cyberpunk inspired. We have so much technology, we know so much stuff. There's really like no place for these ancient gods, but somehow they still came back. And I asked myself the question, how would we picture them in a not so distant future, but in a very very tech driven future?
Oh man, that's awesome.
Kind of fitting your avatar, to be honest.
Oh really?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, the Avatar. It's kind of a funny story, but this is actually modeled after me, and then I added some cool Mass Effect type stuff to me. So,
I can't tell. Mass Effect was great.
oh, I absolutely love that game. But
Mm.
yeah, sticking to what we were just talking about, I'm actually going to put this new piece on the screen real quick, and I want to talk about that for a few minutes. Let me throw it up. Oh, no, wrong video. And I want to make sure there's sound. Okay. All right. Here we go. Oh, that is awesome.
Thank you.
So tell us about this. So this goes with the theme. So I love the story behind this. It's it's futuristic, and these gods of the past, they're kind of shedding their old forms and becoming this new futuristic like cyberpunk form. And so tell us a bit about Poseidon here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea was, in many, I don't know, in mythology, in many concepts of mythology, but also like in modern TV shows, there's like this concept that a god is as powerful as as many believer as the god has or as a deity has. And the idea was that, as you said, the gods have to fit in the future to be a part of the futuristic world, to find their new believers. And this is Poseidon. This is my vision of how Poseidon could look in such a cyberpunkish future.
Oh man, it's so cool. I'm just gonna stop the video here. Oh. Excuse me, hang on, I have bugged my audio. Okay. Thank you, OpenSea. Okay, I'm just going to have this running here. Excuse me, technical difficulties. There we go. And I wanted to stop here. Yes, because the detail that went into this, and the shadows, the background, the colors you chose, the audio, all really, really puts you into this scene and really gives you a feel for this. And I just wanted to look at that for a second to kind of put all that together, because there is a lot going on, right?
Yeah, there is. And I mean, Poseidon is a bit of an ambivalent god. Like, there's people who admire him being the powerful god of the sea, protecting, the sailors. He was also deemed to be the, creator of horses in ancient mythology, but he was also a very, or he was said to be a very ill-tempered god, creating earthquakes and, having being very, very ill-tempered at times. And I tried to kind of bring both those aspects together by using those two different textures for Poseidon's model. So the rougher metallic textures on the one hand, and the more smooth, watery textures that also blend together with the background and really try to show that the water is his element.
I forget that I have this camera, because sometimes you'll see me going like this, and I'm actually staring at the screen really, really closely to see what you're describing. But yeah, that's amazing, and the reflections and everything, the texturing is just out of this world. It's quite good. Like, this piece is quite good.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Well, like I said, every time we see something from you, it just gets better and better, and it's just it's amazing to see your journey, honestly. But I don't want to I don't want to digress too much. How long does it take for you to make something like this?
Actually, this is the series I have spent most time working on, because I worked on the models of all the gods of the Olymp, and trying to get a consistent style on the one hand, but preserve the unique personalities of each goddess and of each god, was what really turned all of this into a very, very lengthy process, which started like 7 to 8 months ago. And it took me quite some time to finish the basic concept of each god and have an idea of how I want, the personality traits to reflect in the textures and models. And while I do have a pretty clear idea how the other gods and goddesses are going to look like, it's still an ongoing work, and sometimes I come back and I be like, yeah, I'm going to redo this model from scratch. So this is still, for me, my biggest serious and still ongoing work, and has been for the last 3 quarters.
Man, that's awesome. I mean, this is crazy. And what do you use? Are you using Blender?
Yeah, Splendor.
Oh, that's fantastic. And just some other technical questions. You got your timing just perfectly with the sound of the ocean and everything. So where do you actually get your samplings from? Or do you go out and have a microphone and tape the sea, or what?
I wish that I would be the person who also does the sound samples myself, but I am not. I am going through some of the more well-known sound libraries, and I have an idea of what I want the sound to be like. Sometimes it needs a bit of editing. Um, then to be honest, get some help on that because I'm not very good at working with sound, but still, I feel like it enhances the storytelling of the picture and really have this soundscape, this ocean wave sound going around Poseidon as he spins, so that we can see him from all sides and aspects. Helps with the storytelling, but it's not done by me. The recordings of the sound.
Oh man, that's so cool. We do have some questions from the audience. I am going to shoot, which is Mongoose has asks, are these multiple shards joined together, or is there something else generating the structure?
Yes, there are multiple shards that are joined together and that also have some very rough edges to really showcase that strong personality of Poseidon.
Man, I love that you talk about Poseidon as being this piece, because it did. I could see how you've designed this because because you really are trying to embody Poseidon. You're not just saying this is my art. You're like, this is Poseidon.
Absolutely, yeah.
um, okay, let's before we get into some more details on this piece and
Mm-hmm.
the upcoming drop for Whale, I'm going to transition us just a bit here because I want to get to some questions from the audience. Uh, let's see. One question is, and I think this is from Justin. Let's see. I know it's like children, and you're not meant to have a favorite, but which is your favorite art piece?
Wow, that's a difficult question. Um, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I loved the last piece that I did for Whale that you showcased with the surprise in the box, basically the spaceship and the whale, because I personally, I liked creating it and bringing um, the futuristic spaceship science fiction stuff together and matching it with whale and the whale community. It's a very for me work that's close to heart and was very very entertaining to work on. But I also really like the current series that I'm working on because as I said, for the first time, it feels like I have the time to breathe and take all the time that I need to work on it. So it's a tough one, yeah. But I think these two pieces or piece and series would be the answer to that question.
Man, that's awesome. Here's a question from Ainers. Which piece takes the longest to finish, or which of them has dedicated more time? And I think it's either he or she is talking about your series, I think. But
Mm-hmm.
in general, which piece is taking the longest time?
Well, I'm gonna answer both parts of that. Like for the series, it was Hades. Being the god of the underworld and being a very very powerful god, but not necessarily residing in the Olymp, but still being too powerful to be ignored. And working on Hades and illustrating that, but also not going with the cliche that he's just the god of the underworld, and somehow portray him and portray Zeus, who's the ruler of the Olymp, on the other hand, was a very, very difficult challenge for me in this very series. And speaking about my general body of work, I would say, and this, I don't know, I would say really the first pieces that I created for Maker's Place as a part of my application to be accepted on the platform, really, they are not the most complex pieces of work I've done, like from a technical perspective, but they took me the longest to finish personally, like as individual pieces and not counting the series that I'm currently working on.
Okay. Yeah. I'm actually trying to go through and find your first piece. Let's see. Is it what was the title of it?
There's 3 pieces that I had to create for Maker's Place. I think one's even called the Genesis.
Genesis piece. Okay. I'm looking. The thing about Maker's Place and others, sorting is not the best.
Can I link it to you in the chat that we have here, maybe?
Yes, perfect. I love it. Okay. I'm going to put this on the screen here. Wow. This was your Genesis piece.
Yes, it was. It was like, well, as I said, coming from a place of working with photography, and I know I said mostly focused on landscapes, but also doing like some portrait work. I wanted to have something, figurative, but that doesn't like give away that there's a photographer trying to play with a new medium. And I like loops, and I also like symmetry. This is very much related to each other for me personally, and well, trying to play with this new medium and create this like semi-figurative and semi-abstract look really took me a lot of time back then, because like it was like a kid on a playground, and with so many new tools and fun stuff to play with, and thinking about where I get started with all of it, and trying to bring this together to tell a story is what took so much time.
Man, I feel that. I definitely feel that. It's man, it is so exciting. And back then, it felt so exciting. And I think we're still feeling the excitement now.
Yeah, it was summer of 2020 when this came
2020.
out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Wow.
Man, it seems like so long ago, but it was so it wasn't.
but in crypto it was.
In crypto it was, yeah. Holy cow. But I remember those times and feeling, the feeling is still there. Like I always look back to that era, and I say to myself, this was like one of my favorite parts of my life, to be honest with you. It was the most excitement, and just learning about the space and trying to figure out what's happening, and the energy was really good. So
yeah, everything was new, and everyone was kind of new to the space. You still had like a realistic chance of getting an overview of what's happening on a day-to-day basis, and keep stay posted and updated with everything that was going on. And this is absolutely impossible to do nowadays.
It's true. It's really hard to keep up with everything with all the projects coming out, and the folks coming in, and it's everything's happening, and it's still exciting. It's just different. Yeah, it's just
yeah.
It's like a different type of excitement.
I mean, it's beautiful. We've come a long way, and like the space got so much bigger, but it's also like challenging to, yeah, well, follow all those new projects and people that are entering the space.
Man, would you say we've matured a little bit?
I I think we did, but just a bit, because like there's like still so much, to explore and play with, and there's like still so many new concepts that come out. And we just, in terms of arts, we it feels like we just onboarded photographers at a larger scale, like yesterday, I know, like a
Yeah.
couple of months ago. And this medium is still growing, and we're going to see more explorations um, on this. Then we also see, like, so many cool things happening with generative art. Like if I think about Matt Kane and the gazers that he created, that basically are eternal moon calendar. And you can always look at your gazer and see the moon phase, and they do so many cool things for different events, like New Year, full moon. It's fascinating. It's like, you have a piece of art that's like there to stay in perpetuity and to change, well, as you change and grow, right? And this is why I still think that we are very, very early, with so many new cool and exciting things to see that none of us can really think about right now.
Yeah, I agree with you there. We're just we're getting we've kind of matured a little bit, but then we've kind of
Hmm.
degened a little bit more too. So I think
Yeah.
there's this interesting I love in your intro you talk about the balance between light and dark and life and death and all that stuff. And it I think we're like in that inner we're just kind of like perfectly going back and forth between the degen and the fine art,
Hmm.
and this beautiful mix that's coming out of that. And you mix in the technology, uh it kind of it just feels right, feels like the right place at the right time.
Yeah, yeah, it absolutely does. And I know, I feel like the degen side of it gives it like such a playful take, and it's a space that, well, doesn't take itself as serious as other places do,
Yeah,
and it feels more relaxed and also more inclusive.
exactly. And the cool thing about this is wanting to have fun. I mean,
Hmm.
I think it's neat what some people are doing. I think it's neat to like think of new ways to get engagement. Think of new ways for people to collect, and I love that about it. And oh, that reminds me, before we kick off, you said you were working on something, and my ears like totally fanned out, and I was listening, and my ADD stopped for just a second so I could focus. But you'd said you're working on a new project, and I don't know if you could say anything about it, but I'd love to hear a little bit more.
Yeah, so being a gamer myself, and also thinking about how I can, take my art to the next level, to a playful level, so to say. I am currently working on creating my own game within the blockchain space. It's gonna be a text-based RPG style of game at first, and I'm gonna build it from there. And I also wanna include my body of work into that game. um, it's progressing pretty well, I would say, but it's like, well, again, it's completely different from everything that I've done before, and there's so many things to learn and to do, and to, well, try to get uh, to try to get to work as we are growing and building that. But it's a really, really fun thing to work on. And as I said, being a gamer myself, building my own game was always a dream of mine.
Man, yeah, I'm super excited now. You said text-based RPG. I'm all over that. So I can't wait until when you're ready to show something. Please let me know because I can't wait to see it. And uh, I given the fact, and I'm just going to say it again. I know I've said it about 30 times so far, but given the fact that you took photography, went over to 3D, the skill level, like I said, you look like you've been doing this for so many years, and now you're going to transition to a game. I mean, yeah, I have no worries that you're going to come up with something amazing.
Thank you, thank you. And it might actually be a bit earlier than I initially thought it would be.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. Keep me in mind when you want to talk about stuff because I actually can't wait. So
I will do, absolutely.
I'll take one more question from the audience, and then we'll circle back on to what we're doing for the drop. But this question is from Mongoose. Is this inspired by a multi-user dungeon?
Multi-user dungeons, mud. Yes, it is a bit inspired by that, but it also will have more different concepts and elements to it.
Oh, I love it. And selfish question for me: what was your first RPG that you played and really loved?
The first RPG that I played and really loved, I think not many are gonna know it because it was a German RPG. It was called Gothic. Basically, very very sassy, snarky guy playing in a medieval world, who completely lost his identity and was trying to get it back. And it was really fascinating to dive into that.
Was that on PC?
It was on PC, yeah. It
I
was at
think.
the time when Diablo 2 was a thing,
Oh yeah. I think I did
which I
play
also played
that.
heavily. Really? You did?
Yeah, I think they did a translation of it.
They did, but I never heard of someone outside of Europe playing that series or that RPG.
Yeah, I was pretty into a lot of RPGs.
Okay, that's cool.
Oh man, and yeah, we're getting a lot of folks. Justin says he loved it too.
Wow. Okay, I
So
wouldn't have guessed that. I was thinking it was a German/European thing, but yeah, actually the team is working on a new game which is going to release in March, mid of March, I think it is. So I'm not going to be around by then.
oh man, that's crazy. I can't wait. The oh man, yeah, I don't want to get too deep into RPG talk because yeah, we could have another hour or so talking about that. well,
Absolutely, yeah.
we'll have to talk after the show a little bit after we close. But okay, refocusing. I am going to put up Poseidon on the screen again. So let's talk. So this goes live, or it's actually, I think it already is live. So you can grab Poseidon for only for whale. So there's only one, and we put it live. Yes, it is live and ready to go. So if you have some extra whale sitting around, and this is part of the whole Arctic Whale initiative, is that we're bringing to you some of the best artists in the space. And when I do say best, I do mean legendary. So you're getting the art able to purchase for whale, and there's only one available. So if you have, like I said, some spare whale, grab it. And with that, any parting words that you want to give to viewers about anything before we take off?
Well, first of all, thanks again for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and not only talk about art, but like all the other things that are out in the space and fascinating me, and really are part of my story and trying to find my place. And I'm also super thankful for everyone who joined in the audience and for all the questions that were brought up and for the interest in my work.
Oh man, the pleasure is always ours. I mean, it's so cool to hear your story and see what you've done throughout the years. And I encourage people to go back and watch the intro video. I love how Legendary's pieces just come together. I did make one myself for something back in March, and that was all. It's definitely been my favorite out of all the videos that I've ever made. Because honestly, your work is really easy to put together and put music to, and it looks fantastic. So kudos to you
Thank you
for
so much.
everything you're doing, and I can't wait to see what you come up with photography, and I can't wait for the game as well. With that, I'm going to end the broadcast, but I'm going to play Poseidon on our way out.